All right. Hi, everyone. This is Anthony Diaz with the Pop Health Show. And this show is for anyone that has a super strong passion about the intersection of Web3 health and just societal impact in general. We're living in an interesting world where AI and Web3 and all these technologies are coming about. But I don't want to steal the thunder from my guest today. I'm really excited to have Mattia on the show. So I want to make sure I don't butcher his last name, but Mattia Mervosevich, and I practiced this just a second ago. And you can correct me on the spelling, but what's most important is Mattia's seen a lot of really great stuff in this space of Web3. And he is the co-founder and partner at Eterna Capital that's doing a lot of great stuff in this space, supporting some great projects, some great theses in the space. I'm not going to steal his thunder. Mattia, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much, Anthony. Very nice to be in the show.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing is correct me on your the pronunciation of your last name.
Mrvosevic. Quite difficult.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for allowing me to butcher it a little bit. But I guess maybe to start us off, I love hearing about origin stories. Our listeners love hearing about where things started. So many of our listeners are in the Web3 space, getting the Web3 space, but they're also a lot of healthcare leaders also that listen to the show that are fascinated about these different technologies that can help them do their job in industries a lot better. Teleport us back, take us back to where things started from you. Tell us a little bit about your origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we go back 5 years where we launched Eterna Capital. It's 4 co-founders, 4 partners. And, I was a BlackRock at the time. And, we were all like at different roles at BlackRock. And sometimes basically I'm an engineer by background and always been interested in, intersection between finance and tech. And, I think when someone told me about blockchain, probably at the beginning was like, oh, it's interesting. But, at some point I'm like, okay, let's dig into it a bit deeper. And I found it very interesting. And especially with my background and, the interest in general between, tech and finance, I thought let's get into deeper. And then obviously, I think as everyone in the space, once you get to know it a bit better, then you can kind of get back to it or go out from it. So basically, at the time at BlackRock, we were doing different kind of roles, and we were part of an internal forum. This was like 6-7 years ago, where kind of the company was studying digital assets, and back then already like crypto versus blockchain and crypto assets correlation with traditional assets, etc. Trying to understand really like the potential of this new tech. And basically it was clear that there was a huge potential. And in that forum actually I met my then co-founders Asim and Nassim, and we started chatting, and we shared the same passion. And Nassim then introduced us to Andrea, our 4th co-founder, because they studied together in Imperial College London. And from there we basically started investing together, initially as a syndicate, and then basically we noticed more and more that companies, it was really the Far West back then, I think. And basically we noticed more and more that serious company and then founders, etc., they really wanted venture capital firms that were basically supporting them in the long term with real support. But at the same time, we noticed there was an interest from venture capital firm, but also having the community involved. So, for a lot of deals, sometimes it's a question of making sure that the community is involved, as well as having like, strong backers. And then we thought, look, it's probably the moment for us to, jump into the space full time. And we all quit, and basically we launched Eterna Capital.
Nice. No, that's great. I mean, I appreciate your background. It provides an interesting perspective, right? BlackRock, like one of the biggest asset holders in the world. And, I think I was listening to something the other day that talked about Larry Fink and making comments about, tokenizing various different asset classes is obviously it's interesting to hear that said, but it also feels like a natural societal progression as well. Why not with this technology start to look at different assets from everything from like, carbon credits to I know for you, as you know, for us, we're looking at tokenize healthcare assets, right? But you have precious metals, you have real estate, you have all these different asset classes. But it's very fascinating that how you guys came together as a group, your theses and your backgrounds and the competencies that you're bringing to the space. I guess one thing I'm curious about is like, what are you seeing out in the market right now? What themes related to Web3 or AI or just in general in technology are exciting you these days? What are you, what type of companies are you looking for? What type of technologies and elements are you looking to invest in? I just love to hear more about your passions and what has a lot of your attention these days, because things are moving so fast, right? You have to pick a couple of theses and go deep and see which companies are actually making significant commercial traction or just usage and things like that. So I just love to listen to a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for us, we were quite early in the space, and we noticed a bit, the cycle, like a kind of usual technology cycle. And with all the new tech, you always have, an initial period of excitement and then, usage. And then probably there are some technologies that, were very early. So they were, maybe full of like, kind of issues or like initial issues that then got solved somehow. But then, some of these companies also, these issues probably remained. And some, as always, in the real world as well, like companies didn't make it to the end, and then others that were winners from the previous cycle. So basically, I think, in crypto, the cycles are much faster than in the real software applications for a lot of reasons. But basically, by saying that, what I'm trying to say is that these days, for example, we still see like a new wave of layer one protocols. So we had, a massive wave in 2018 where we actually were also early stage investors in, Algorand, Hashgraph, and others. And, now it's interesting because after that previous wave, there is actually, with Aptos and Sui last year, but also others at the moment, we have like a new kind of, new kind of layer one protocols that are looking to jump into the market very aggressively as well. So that's for us quite interesting in the sense that, the way I see it to a degree is that the base layers are going to become like so important and are still like so important that, in the future, you never know. We still probably don't know exactly how this is going to be figured out, in the sense that you may have like, a few like very strong layer one protocols that are going to get all the market, or, maybe you have like a, multi-chain kind of future with a lot of different chains all competing for getting clients. And at the end, even there, bridges is something that obviously, you have the Layer 0, Wormhole, Axelar, of these words, very top projects. There are people I know that are more like maximalists, let's say, in this way, that believe that really there's going to be, few chains, bridges are the issue. Others saying, no, actually, it's going to be, multi-chain and, the bridges are necessary. So I think we are a bit in the middle with our thesis, in the sense that it's quite early to understand exactly how this future is going to be, rolled out for the tech. So we are still excited by new layer ones. We are still excited a lot by, base layers of the tech. So layer twos, for example, anything that can scale vertically, zero knowledge is definitely something that we see a lot these days. And then, in terms of applications, we really start to see now some like very interesting use cases, obviously, in the health sector, in like entertainment sector, like there really is like a lot of interest from big corporations to jump into the space. Despite the bear market, to be honest, we see like a very large, corporates that finally understand the potential of blockchain tech and really is jumping into the sector. So for us, base layer tech infrastructure is something that's still really important, but we are also looking at now really like sometimes what we call Web 2.5. So like companies that really are bridging, and there's going to be a cycle for them for sure, where there are companies that help Web 2 corporations to really jump into the space, and they know the sector and they also know what traditional corporations want. So I think this is a good array of opportunities that we're looking at the moment.
Nice. Mattia, I know a lot of our listeners. So yeah, Sui, Aptos, these are really exciting kind of, layer ones. And then there's some new layer twos that are, coming out with on the ZK side. when you look at new opportunities, how do you discern if a new layer one that is being worked on and approaches you guys? How do you discern if that layer one could be a winner? How do you discern if a layer two deal that comes across your plate could be a winner? Where are you seeing the white space and opportunity, specifically maybe in verticals, in use cases, in what are those attributes, and how do you know that what you see come across is very promising? Is it about the tech, the traction, the vertical, the expertise of the team, and where they're coming from? Just love to understand kind of the your algorithm, your decision algorithm for opportunity in layer ones and layer twos.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, look, at the end, obviously the team is at the early stage, probably the most important element that we look at, especially if they, for a new layer one, I mean, it's a very complex tech because you have, the consensus mechanism, etc. So for that, for sure, it has to be like a very strong technically, and, then we have, we do our own technical due diligence on projects, and, that is probably the starting point, let's say.
Sure.
But the reality is that, there is a difference between R&D, if you want, like a research and development facility, let's call it this way, where you have a very strong tech, but then the go-to-market is essential, because otherwise, in the world, even like there are a lot of examples of like very top techs, but if they don't have a nice go-to-market and nice traction, they will just remain, like, let's say, isolated to a degree. And some of the layer ones of the previous cycle didn't make it, let's say, let's call it this way, because of this reason as well. Like they were a bit, unknown after some years. So basically, the other important thing is that it's quite funny, but in the world of VC, like sometimes you see projects that maybe are not perfect from a product or a tech perspective, but the community want it so much that at the end they're going to receive a lot of inflow in cash, and basically because the people want it. And I think one good example of that is for companies like Uber, right? So Uber had a lot of challenges in approaching some countries, obviously for a lot of reasons. But at the end, the community and the people, they all use Uber. They really want it, and they really, still now like one of the best, companies worldwide, pretty much. So I think that for layer ones in particular, it's the same, and for probably all the companies. But like layer one in particular, I would say tech, very strong go-to-market, and because the market is already quite crowded, you really need to have something that stands out a lot. And this also comes with like a very strong community. I think you need to have a very strong network of VCs as well that really can help you. Kind of being competitive in this market at the moment. Is like quite crowded, right? So you really you have to be like a very strong project to kind of make it in the top 50, top 100 token by market cap, basically. Yeah.
And what do you, this is great. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. How do you see the market in terms of like all these new infrastructures and tokens out there? Not to mention you have now AI and generative AI and how it's seeping into, and one would say that Web3 kind of encapsulates AI. There's even new tokens now that are like generative AI tokens, or using generative AI to help provide value in the project, to provide the balancing of their different inputs into the tokens, burns and sinks, right? And things like that. But how do you see the market shaking out in terms of, it feels like the market only has so much appetite to have so many useful tokens out there, so many useful blockchains, right? Do you have a timeline horizon or potentially certain macro factors that come into play that will help decipher which are more important than others? And then I'd love to hear your theses on AI and how it relates to this space.
Yeah, maybe we start from there. So for us, look, we see the market as being, an intersection between actually the future, probably between big data, AI, and blockchain. So you have big data that will somehow need to be, analyzed, and there is, a lot of data available worldwide, and we don't have actually the necessary computing power to analyze this data. That's the reality, and by doing that, I think we pretty much waste at the moment around 80% of the data because we can't calculate what's happening. And there are several reports from, McKinsey, Cisco that I think will tell you this even in more detail. But from that, okay, you have AI that definitely helps, and examples like GPT, etc. I think these are top examples of how the AI can be definitely like very close to the human natural language, and by being that, it's like very simple and more accessible to the masses. And then we intersect with that, you have blockchain that will help in different ways. So for example, decentralized computing, it's something that by leveraging blockchain tech can be done in a very efficient way, for example. And by having the right incentives in the form either on tokenomics, or you really can make sure that people are involved in from A to Z to a process. Let's call it this way. So the problem now obviously is with a lot of centralized companies, there is a lack of computing power, and at the same time there is a lot of idle capacity in the world, right? If you think about even your if you have a PlayStation 5 or a console or your laptop or whatever, like the majority of the time they're like pretty much idle, like they just do very simple things. If you find a way to incentivize and align all the incentives of people by considering also the fact that people want to be incentivized, like people are definitely interested in these things. So sometimes it's funny because when we see new projects in the crypto space as well, and you look at the Telegram channel, the amount of questions that the community asks is very detailed and very specific. So they definitely do their due diligence, and and this is great to see in the sense that people want to be more involved. So why not giving them the tools to be more involved and be more present? Because then this is going to also provide more value add in the future for the project, and in general I think for the internet itself. And AI in this will play a major role. I don't think that AI specifically is gonna be connected necessarily with like the value of the token or the market itself. I know there are some projects that leverage AI to do some predictions and forecasts, and to do some like even financial products driven by AI. But I think we're still early for that in the crypto space. But yeah, I think it's that's the way we see it pretty much. So AI is gonna have a fundamental value, and yeah.
I appreciate it. No, this is great. I appreciate it, Mattia. Yeah, thank you for shedding light on that perspective and intersection. It's such a big, I wouldn't say it's a debate, but it's kind of like so many different investors, founders, companies, Fortune 500 are trying to rationalize faster and quicker and have theses between the intersection of Web3 and AI now, right? To understand their roadmaps, and they know there's convergence there. But how and why do they do those things to add value to their traditional businesses to set themselves up for the future, which kind of leads into sort of my last question, which is kind of very future focused. So obviously our show is called a Pop Health Show because technologies are very quickly changing, have the ability to change population health and society more than ever before. When it comes to the future, what do you see happening with some of these technologies, and say these, your investments go the direction where they need to, and they're representative in the industry and add value? What do you see happening in the future? What do you see happening in society? What are some use cases? Is it, everyone's able to move their money around a lot more efficient, own their data? They're getting more value from their services in a more intelligent way using AI and things like that. But I don't want to overscript you here for our last question here, but maybe just tell me what you'd like to see happen in the future. What do you see happening? Give us your Nostradamus predictions. So
yeah, absolutely. So the way I see it personally is this. So you're gonna have between all the topic I was mentioning before, so big data, AI, blockchain. So I think we are going towards a world where the key word probably it's automation. So, now every time there is the need for a human input somewhere in any process, you're gonna have like a delay basically in the process itself, right? So these are all technologies that are gonna allow to streamline pretty much all the processes, like the majority of the processes. I definitely believe that AI cannot overcome any process. Like the human touch will always be needed for a lot of for things. but like it's I think inevitable that we're going towards a world where some even like work positions are going to be probably replaced by AI, and especially with the natural language processing and GPT and other things, like you're gonna really have the most simple, like sometimes even front office roles where they are very process oriented. These can be potentially changed and replaced by an AI that interacts with the client, and everyone can just play with GPT and they will understand how useful could be for these kind of things. So I think automation is the key word. What will bring then as an effect is automation. I think probably in the real future, like thinking maybe 20 years from now, we could see, when we think about blockchain, pretty much is value moving around, right? So the concept of value and the concept of capital even may change to a degree, in the sense that now it's very segmented, it's very siloed, you have bank accounts, you have, but the moment you start bringing value and moving value around very easily, the concept of capital is going to be much more fluid, I believe. So there's going to be, where you don't even know, and you don't even have to know that you have a token on the back and stuff. It's going to be like, when you do your backup in cloud, that there is a tech somehow that works. But what for sure is that the value is moving. So this will have a strong effect, I think, in the world population. Maybe we're going to potentially see like the first examples of universal basic income. Why not? Because, there's going to be a redistribution of wealth pretty much. So that's a bit how I see it. It's going to be, changing a lot, I think, from where we are today.
Nice. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I appreciate your perspective and your insight and wisdom on the space. You guys are seeing a lot of opportunities, a lot of deals, a lot of movement. It is an exciting time. And it does seem like since generative AI has kind of come out, to be consumer friendly just in the last few months, you're starting to see the acceleration of some of these industries, happen more than ever before. So congratulations to Eterna Capital. Congratulations to yourself on the success you guys are having. And sounds like you guys are making some really great calculated decisions on who you guys are supporting. And that's great to see. Very last question is just, our listeners love to get in touch with you somehow, always, our guests. What would be a really good way to interact with you on social media or directly, if you'd like that to happen? Any type of companies you want to see outreach to you guys? I can imagine you guys have a lot of startups approaching you guys and getting your thoughts, but what would be a good way to interact with you if you'd like that to happen?
Absolutely. And I think, the best way is still, and always by, kind of referral, in the sense that, or even like meeting in person in a conference. We are always around in the main conferences, so people can always find us. And that is best way, because you always have, a kind of a human element or human touch to the connection. But obviously we all, we always look at, direct applications as well from our website. And then obviously, me, myself personally, obviously on Twitter and LinkedIn, I'm always active in the social media channels, basically.
Nice. Mattia, this has been great. It's been really enriching and rewarding just to have your insights and understand your background, your origins, and really hear and listen to a phenomenal thesis in investment and in space, in the space that you're in Web3, AI, layer 1s, layer 2s. And I appreciate you also giving a human element to all of these technologies, because I'm sure if you listen to both, if 2 years ago you listened to both of us talk about what we're talking about now, we'd probably both be like, what are you talking about, right? But at the end of the day, it's just exciting to see how these infrastructures and pieces are going to just create a better world, right? And help humanity move forward in a more effective, efficient way to draw better connections to each other in the intersection of communication, value, and some of these theses we're talking about. So Mattia, this has been great. I'd love to have you back on the show, maybe, 3, 6, or 12 months from now, where we can talk about what's happened, what's occurred. These are very rewarding for me to do, and hopefully our listeners are going to get a lot of value. So to our listeners out there, this is the Pop Health Show. The show's for anyone that's interested in the intersection of Web3, technology, health, and just population health and societal impact in general. So Mattia, this has been great. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you
so much. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.